We're live. Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and we help people with their breakups here. And today we're going to get into Reddit stories and breakup topics. Before we get into that, I'm going to bring a topic. What were the red flags your ex showed? And I was on Reddit earlier today looking at some of the chat rooms or whatever you'd call that. And this was one of the topics that got brought up. What were the red flags your ex showed? And hindsight is always 2020, right? So a lot of people are gonna go, "Oh, it was this, it was that," and that's gonna be extremely obvious post breakup, right? Because you're gonna go, "Oh, I should have known this, I should have known that." But the reality is you don't know till you break up. And one of the biggest ones that a lot of people say is love bombing. And the thing about love bombing is that it feels really good. It's actually a positive, right? Because people are giving you compliments, they're saying good things about you. And who doesn't like that? Who doesn't think it's positive to have positive things said about them, if not a lot of positive things? So that's one of those ones a lot of people say, "Oh, the love bombing, that's the obvious one." It's not really obvious when you're in the middle of it because it's what you really want to believe that that's true, which is a problem for a lot of people, right? Because there can be some people that in the beginning of the relationship, they actually give you a lot of compliments and it's not love bombing. It's just who they are. So if you look back at where you were looking for red flags, could it possibly be that there are now red flags become because of the results, right? First and foremost. So let's just go through the top 5 red flags. Number 1, they have money issues. Okay, this is a big one, especially if you live in an area that money is a big deal. There's certain parts of the world where it's extremely expensive, and if you don't get in that race, it's going to be difficult for a long time. Now, the money issues, let me be specific. It's not like they're in college and they're struggling and they have a finish line to become a doctor, a nurse, a teacher, a lawyer, accountant, something professional, something with a career, right? I'm talking about that they just doesn't seem like they've made a lot of money, but they're always out of money. They're borrowing from friends or family. And this is one of those things, if you're a nice person and you're getting good intimacy and you're highly attracted to them, you want to help them out, right? So you really want to help them out. And that's okay. But one of the things about the money thing is what you'll become is one of their sources of money and to get them out of things. And they probably have some sort of limited belief on making money. That everyone's capable of making more money or working harder or getting things that they need. When they get that from their partner and you're not used to that and you're not on board with that, it's a huge red flag. Number 2, they don't like your family and friends and you do. Okay, so this is a big one. You right off the bat, they have a few comments about your friends or your family that you find completely untrue. Now, sometimes you know that your friend's a jerk. You know what I mean? You know that they can offend people. But right off the bat, if they don't like your friends and family and you do, or they're extremely rude with them, what they're doing subconsciously is making themselves more important than your friends and family. They're creating a case to be built of why you should spend more time with them. Okay. So, right off the bat, I would say number 1 would be money issues. And when I say money issues, it's long-term money. They've always had money issues. And when you get with them, they're in extreme money problems when you get with them. Like they're dependent on you, their friends, or the family. Okay. Number 3, they need a place to stay and want to move in with you. Okay. So this would probably be one of the number 1 red flags. If this is a combination of those 3, it's a problem. It's a problem for people that are problem solvers, that are extremely positive. And here's the thing, if you're dating someone that is extremely attractive, things are going well, you'll overlook this because it's like, "Oh, I have extra money. Oh, you know what? You're just down on your luck right now. Just keep looking for a new job. Oh, you don't have a place to stay." So the reason why these are big is because if you lean into these, they'll become extremely dependent on you. The problem with that is, unless it's your pleasure and you're some kind of millionaire, is if you start to show them that you're losing interest or you want to break up, the abandonment issues that we all talk about, oh, they have abandonment issues. They'll get amplified times 10 if they're dependent on you for a place to live and money. Think about that. It's not like they're just attracted to you and they want to be with you. And so it's extremely hard to break up in these relationships. Now, number 4, they are constantly on their phone and big on social media check-ins. Now, some people will overlook this, right? Because they're like, oh, I like to check my Snapchats. I like to check my Instagram. But the reality is, if they're constantly, right? They're always looking, you're on your first couple dates. You guys go out and they're just on their phone, on their phone, on their phone. The reason why that can't be overlooked is because it's going to become a problem in your relationship. If they're really into social media, this is one of the biggest complaints when you're together is they're constantly on their phone. They're also looking to get validated a lot of times on these social media things. Not everyone, but that would be a huge red flag. If they're checking their likes all the time, if they're discussing their post, if they have to take a picture of their food 1,000 times. Now, some people might say, oh, I do that. I'd want someone else that does that. Okay, but it does affect a long-term relationship. Okay. And the reason why it does is social media can be a minefield for cheating or emotional cheating. And I would even add to that a topic that's not talked about a lot is the assumption of emotional cheating. So emotional cheating is one of those things that's really difficult to navigate because when someone cheats old school style, there was penetration, there was some kind of intimacy, okay? There was kissing. With emotional cheating, it's like, well, this person texted you, well, they're just a friend. It's this gray area. And what happens is people get extremely uh accusational, but they put their detective hat on, and there's a lot of things you're going to get accused of. And so if you're with someone that's on social media all the time, there's going to be this gray area of emotional cheating, especially if they're attractive. Number 5, they're extremely into their appearance and they go to the bathroom a lot. What I mean to that is they go to the bathroom a lot to check how they look. You've known people like this that are friends or family members. If you're dating someone and they're constantly going to the bathroom and they don't have a urinary tract infection and they're checking their makeup, or for guys checking their hair, in the one sense, it's great that you care about your appearance, right? Like, it's a good thing. But there can be people that are obsessed with it. Now, you'll notice this, and the ironic thing is people that are obsessed with their appearance that look good, you think, well, it works, right? The reason why they look better too is because they're obsessed. Now, when you're dating, you might overlook that because they're attractive, but they'll be extremely sensitive if someone says something bad about their looks. So this is a big red flag. They talk bad about their friends and family. So this is a generalized way of putting it, but really, when you think about it, you're next. So if they're saying like they never talk to their aunt again because their aunt did one thing wrong, and really listen to the stories, right? Because there's some cases where you go, wow, that's really messed up. You stood up for yourself. But there's some stories where you're thinking to yourself, what happened? You did what? Because they're going to use the same tactics with you eventually when the honeymoon phase is over. So if they talk bad about their friends or family, or there seems to be this pattern where this is a popular one. I never talk to my mom again. I never talk to my aunt again. I never talk to my best friend again. You know people like this. And like I said, the story might seem valid. The story might be valid. Like you're like, wow, that was a reason to. The idea that this is a constant thing where people just stonewall the other person or someone close to them, they're going to use that in your relationship. They're going to cut you off in the same way. Number 7, it seems obvious, but a lot of times when we go out on our first couple dates, we have drinks, right? If they drink a lot, if they want to up the ante from like, oh, let's go get a bottle on your first date, right? Some people might go, oh, it's not a red flag. I like to drink on the weekends. If there's excessive drinking from Jump Street, it's going to be a problem probably over time, because when someone's your partner, girlfriend, boyfriend, you don't like someone that drinks all the time. Ironically, when you're together and your first couple dates, you might want to have a few drinks to loosen up, grease the wheels a little bit. But if that becomes a problem, it's going to be a problem later on. Number 8, they complain a lot and it's not even funny. Some people complain and it's funny. A lot of comedians complain and it's funny. When people just complain and it's annoying, it's negative, that's a problem. It's going to get worse. They're not solution mindseted, right? They don't have the idea that there's some way to fix things. To complain and kind of make a joke about something is different. Sarcasm is different. So those are red flags that I would say are big. Let's take a quick look at this this post from Reddit. What were the red flags your ex showed? Love bombing, which I still hope was genuine in the speed of our relation's progress. So love bombing is one of those things um, that happens a lot, right? And when it's happening, who doesn't like compliments? Who doesn't like to be told that they look great? Who doesn't like to be told they're the best boyfriend or girlfriend in the world? So I think post breakup, this comes to the surface, but during it, it's one of those chameleon like things that's camouflaged in the beginning that to most people, this would be a good thing. You really like me, right? And afterwards, everyone, the sad thing is people out of a love bombed relationship that went wrong are going to think it's negative to actually get strong compliments. 100% of this. Our relationship went from 0 to 100 instantly. I went from being single to practically being in a marriage in like 2 weeks. Met her parents, spent damn near every day together. It was wild. There was no ramp up. It freaked me out. But obviously, my brain was like, oh, yeah, give me all the good chemicals. So, this can happen. You can start a relationship and it's effortless and it's great and you guys are moving really fast. It depends on where you're at in life. Like, let's just say, for example, you just graduated college. She just graduated college. You just moved to the same city together. You go to the same gym. You got a lot in common. Well, you can elevate that relationship a lot quicker with a lot more congruence. That being said, 0 to 100 usually isn't a great thing because that means you can go to 100 to 0 really quick. It's like someone that I'm coaching right now that she's saying that the guy's like, he's taking a while, but they're having good dates, good interactions. Things are going well, right? It's this progressive light moving towards the official title of boyfriend girlfriend. Doesn't mean it's not working, right? She's on a pace right now that she wants more. She wants it faster. She wants him on bended knee, right? The reality is this is a good way to start. You guys are having good dates, you have good interactions, and you're growing on each other. You're growing familiar with each other. Our minds play tricks on us. It's not to no fault of your own that it lasted that long. We definitely want to feel loved and wanted, so we just go with the flow as long as we can. After some time, we usually see it for what it is. And after the relationship ends, we definitely see what was all fake. Every single I love you from my ex to me in my mind was fake. I hope that's not true. There's no way it was sincere. After we split, she moved on almost instantly, did the exact same thing to the next guy, love bombed the shit out of him. How do you know this? Would be my first question. And I think he's the type that'll take it with a grain of salt and they'll get married. I'd put my life savings on it, and that's 100% fine by me. Okay, so this is a good situation where someone's assuming the worst, right? Oh, she broke up with me. She's going to break this guy's heart. He's going to fall for everything. That's just a narrative that you've created that makes you feel better. And that's okay. If you're going to sit there and cling to it and air it out to a bunch of other people, You're trying to make it more true. The reality is once you break up, let's say you get out of this relationship, you've been love bombed, the person went 0 to 100, you're hurt, you're upset, the relationship is done. Don't go on and check on their social media and then tell everyone else, "Oh, this guy's a chump. Oh, this guy's gonna fail. Oh, I'm sure he's believing everything." This isn't helping you. Stay out of all their social media. Period. Let me see what else is in this one. This breakups. Let's put it on here. Did they really love us the way they? Okay. Don't let an ex lead you into believing they want the relationship back. Let's get into this one. This happened to me last week. She unblocked me. We talked, and one thing led to another. Said she still loves me so much, wants to be with me, can't wait for our future together. I said the same, as it actually is what I want. This lasted 3 days. Then come Friday, she's having doubts, turns the emotions off over the weekend. I wait till Sunday to find out what she's decided. So what I would instantly ask is, what were the problems and why did you originally break up? Okay, if we're doing a coaching session, and then get into kind of the character and personality of this individual. That's what's interesting about breakups, is that a lot of people constantly assume that when they break up, if the person comes back or shows interest, they're immediately back into their relationship. It's not the case. Sometimes people pop their head in the door, they say hello, they start to miss you, they cop feelings again, they get back into it. And then they go, "Oh shit, I forgot the reasons I broke up with you." And then those reasons of why they broke up with you come back as they associate with you. And then they also built a case of why they broke up, a strong case, whatever it is to them. And so when they're lonely, they're upset, they haven't heard from you, you're in no contact, they break no contact. Hey, I really miss you. They got that little dopamine hit of like, oh, yeah, I missed you too. I want you back. And then they go, okay, I can put them on ice. And whenever I want to come back to this relationship, I can. Right. And the other person's going, well, I thought you wanted to get back together. They already built the case of why they wanted to break up with you. That's really strong. That case is still sitting on their desk, it's in their mind. And so when you think that, they just contacted me, they're playing with me, they don't even know what they're doing. What they're doing is they're in control of the situation because they care less. Right. And you can't flip that table. And that's why you just go no contact and stay out of their zone. But I could already tell by the coldness of her reply, okay, let me tell you, when you have all that intensity and hope back, and then they just turn it off. It felt like I wanted to evaporate. I loved her with all my heart, and she makes me wait till Sunday night to tell me that she can't get back with me, that it's my fault, and that she's happy with the new guy she's talking to. I was in shock. She told me all of this only to abruptly change her mind and bring my whole world crashing down. I could sense the danger, but I chose to believe her over my own gut instinct. I won't be making that mistake again. It's really not something I want anyone also to experience. So please be careful and don't make that mistake like I did. So the title is, Don't Let an Ex Lead You On into Believing They Want the Relationship Back. Sure, this guy or this individual has a different relationship than yours. If your ex reaches out, and like I said, this is a personality thing. If they reach out and they want to talk and you're interested in getting back together, you got to entertain that call. It's a discovery mission. If they're the type of people that are just narcissistic, or that they just want validation, you're going to have to see that through. Now, what he says here is true. Once you get burned by the stove, don't touch the stove again. So you're allowed, she comes back in the door, she says she wants to get back together, and then she backs back out. I've seen this before. It's more of a pattern thing for an individual, and they obviously don't want to get back with you. They're just lonely, and they haven't made that decision yet. And by the way, when someone calls you back, if they instantly want to get back together rather than just get dinner or meet up, that might be a red flag for a lot of people too. But don't just go on the fact that, hey, don't entertain your ex calling you back ever because this is what happened to me. That's not the case. I loved her with all my heart, and she makes me wait till Sunday night to tell me that she can't go. Okay, sorry. So please be careful. Sometimes it's real if they are serious. Let them show it. Don't be used for making them feel less lonely and validation. It's my birthday. I'm now 28, so going to see my family today and try to enjoy it. In the end, we all heal, but try to avoid causing more pain for yourself. Just process what's already there, and you'll be okay. It's important to understand that when an ex or avoidant comes back, that you need to stand your ground. Oftentimes, they just come to see if you are still a available option. Can only work out if they decide to work on their attachment issues. Okay, so this is one of those things where people are pretty devout on attachment, avoidant, anxious attachment, secure attachment, etc. Yeah, it can be the case. I've often said that attachment is not cut and dry. In certain people, it applies really well, but there's only there's like four versions of it. People get really into this, and then they let it dominate how they act in the relationship. Human beings are intricate creatures of habit, and they have personalities. Okay, and they're going to act different. So don't get married to just this is an avoidant and this is why this happened. It's an awful feeling. I'm sorry it happened. My mind and emotions feel like they're lagging behind events. You get all this false hope from them. I asked her on Thursday night, are we going to be together again? And she says yes. I asked why. She said all of that when she goes back on this Sunday. She says, I'm allowed to express how I feel, which, yeah, but don't claim we are going to be together again if we're not. It's difficult still loving them, but being hurt like this feels extremely confusing. Definitely steps back, but we'll get there. Yeah, like I said, bottom line, we need to know the story of the breakup. Sometimes there's some guys like, she didn't come back to me and the guy cheated 18 times, right? But it just tells you the part that she didn't come back. So we don't know the details of that. Let me see if I can get into. Let's go back to this one. Why am I never enough? What a big topic, right? Sometimes I just cry at the thought that all my life I've tried to be a good person. I financially take care of my whole family and I always share my blessings, even to strangers. I'm always there for my friends, whatever they need from me and whenever they need me. So, right off the bat, you're saying that the way you measure how good you are is how much you give to other people, which isn't a bad thing, but some people can take advantage of that. I always do everything I can to make my partners feel loved and supported to the point where I sacrifice my own needs to prioritize theirs. Okay, so that's your problem. And yet I am never enough. They never love me enough to choose me. They never love me enough to fight for me. They never love me enough to want to see me happy or to want to be the person who makes me happy. So right now what you do is you've set up cognitive bias, which means you have this idea, this narrative, this storyline that's always true. So even if you met someone that found you to be enough, you would probably sabotage the relationship and make it a relationship where you didn't feel enough. I always give so much love. Why isn't that enough? Why am I never enough? Do I not deserve someone who will love me? When you have this narrative stuck, and the interesting thing about this is it's very common. It's a very common thing. It's a human thing. It's a common narrative a lot of humans have. And it's usually based off of when you were a kid, maybe your parents not giving you enough attention or compliments or reassurance or love. It can be the fact that your first serious first love relationship, the person really lacked affection and kindness, as simple as that sounds. Uh, And so now you look at it, and whenever you're in a new relationship, you're really with a microscope looking for where you're not being appreciated. Okay. And so when you start out this paragraph with saying, sometimes I just cry at the thought of my life. I've tried to be a good person. So right there, you're trying to be a good person by giving to everyone. What people don't realize, I financially take care of my whole family. I always share my blessings, even with strangers. I'm always there for my friends, whatever they need. You're doing this for you. So on the outside, you're like, no, I'm this fucking great person. I do all these things. And I agree. If you take care of your family and you share blessings, that sounds outstanding. But do you have this covert contract in your head? Like, what do I get back? So, you know what I mean? Are you keeping score? If you do that, it's a problem. And then what you do is, you're in a relationship and you're with someone that doesn't show you the attention or gratitude that you want, and then the relationship starts to go down, right? Because you start getting in this narrative. My number one thing that I recommend, therapy or coaching, and just work on this narrative. Where is this coming from? If I was coaching this individual, I'd say, all right, let's do a living life review, and let's go 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20, and do a deep dive on your life. Now, what you do on these living life reviews is that we'll make a list of all the things in your life from 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15. I just do those increments, and then I'll write down, okay, mom threw an ice cream in my face when I was 5 years old at school. And you look at that now and you're like, it's kind of funny. I forgave mom for that. But now your mind's working towards, all right, let me find more stories and moments that were significantly bad. Okay. Someone might be like, why would you want to bring these up? Well, you bring them to the surface and you realize where your narratives now are coming from. And then you go through those things because something or some place or some reoccurring thing has this narrative in your head that you're not enough. Now, does that mean like in one session you're going to be completely cured? No. What you do is you plant the seed that actually the reason why you're not enough is partly because of how you're looking at things and your perspective. Okay. Just for example, if you break up and you go, "Oh, why am I never enough?" The same thing can happen to a different person, and they could say, "Wow, this person really lost out." The same thing can happen to another person, and they could say, "This person was love bombing me." It's just perspective, and so you can work on that perspective, and it's a good time to do it after a breakup because that's what it is. You got these general topics in your head. I'm never enough. That could mean 20 different things. Right? You can apply that to all kinds of different things in your life, and it's not a good narrative. So the example was, "It's quite simple, friend. You don't love you enough. Stop people pleasing. Love yourself. Love something else than people for once. A hobby that you can get good at or a good series of books. Stop trying so hard to be loved back. Just be you and work on you. Until the day you realize you love you and being with yourself. By the time you come to that conclusion, there will already be someone blowing up your DMs. And please note that I am not saying to become an a-hole to others. Keep being a good person, but take that energy and shift it towards you for once. You think you need someone to love you the same way you love others to be happy, but that's simply not true or the right mindset. Happiness is having problems. Problems you choose to have and want to deal with. You decide, you make it happen. Give yourself more attention, become confident in yourself, and people will automatically become attracted to you. You are enough. You don't see it because you're avoiding facing yourself. All right, let me break this down. So let me put this in the thing. This is really good example of something that I've learned over the years in coaching that I wouldn't have known before. This is a great post by FXXIXSXXYX, right? Great post, great support. Okay. Because there's a lot of people out there that don't feel like they're enough. It's a very common line. What this person just said in the post, someone out there might read that and be in this situation and go, "Wow, that really shifts things for me." But what they're really doing is stating the obvious, and it's probably not even gonna make a dent, and I'll tell you why. This is surface-based information. Number 2, it's a comment from someone that's not an authority figure to you. Okay, so an authority figure, for example, is like a doctor, or if you're in legal trouble, you go to a lawyer. You listen to that lawyer because you're giving them authority that they know so much more than you, and you have to pay them for that authority. You're also assuming like they know what's best, right? When you're a kid, your authority figure is your parents or your caretakers. You assume what they tell you to do is correct, right? When you get a comment on Reddit from FXXIXXSXYX, and it's a great comment, and you might read and go, "Wow, that really touched me." It's not gonna shift you out of that narrative, okay? What will shift you out of that narrative is actually getting to the bottom of how it even fucking started. How did it start? Where did it come from? There th when you have things like, I don't think I'm enough," you uniquely got there with your own experiences and stories. And so what this post doesn't do is find out the roots and guts to your own problems. It's just telling you, well, just love yourself, right? It's if it was that easy, the person would always already do it. And they might even not even vibe with that kind of language towards it. All right, let's get into, and this is a very common line. Telling you that you don't love you enough is terrible advice because all you want to be is someone's number one. If someone if wanting someone to be close to you isn't loving yourself, then what the hell is the alternative? Loving yourself and still feeling like others don't love you instead? I'll just tell you that the people you're hoping will give you that same level of love may not want or be capable of giving you the same. Okay, so here's the thing. Here's the thing again. Let me get into this. The individuals that are giving this advice, they're just saying what they would do. They're not you. That's the difference when you break something down with myself in a coaching session. We're going to get into you. We're not going to get into broad lines of do you love yourself or not? What's going on in your life? What are your experiences? What are your issues individually? So someone just gave you some pretty kind advice. Oh, love yourself, do this in a kind way. Someone else is like, oh, that's not good advice, right? And this other person, it's hard to determine this, especially with people that aren't family. But if you truly want someone to love you as you do them, then it needs to be someone who doesn't already have a number one in their life. After all, what's that saying? It's hard to fill the cup that is already full. I know too well how you feel. I fell in love with a woman that couldn't 100% be there for me, even though she did have feelings for me. So they're just saying their own experiences, right? All right, let's get into the relationship advice part. I'm going to switch over here. Someone was mentioning in the comments from yesterday's live stream that they felt like a lot of the stuff on Reddit is untrue, just trying to be sensational. I would say this, doing this job for about 6 years now and talking to a lot of different people, there's a lot of stuff that you would say like, "Oh, this isn't true." It is true. These are real people. I've talked to them before. They might be lying in their coaching sessions, but I would doubt that. There's some things out there just because you can't fathom that happening in your own life or those kind of stories. Now, the people that are maybe falsely putting up Reddit stories, What's the benefit to get some kind of, I don't know, entertainment from that? I suppose it's possible. All right, let me put this. Shares relationship advice. Let's check out this one. This one seems interesting. Oh, let's take a look at this one. Ex-husband, male 32, isn't accepting that I've moved on, and I'm not sure how else to make it clear to him that I'm not going back. So I've been in this situation as a coach where someone is not taking no or not accepting a breakup. And let's get into this one. My ex-husband had, hold on a sec. Let's get this up here. My ex-husband and I had been together for nearly 9 years, married for nearly 2. After we married, we had it good until last year when his behavior rapidly changed to being a narcissistic, aggressive, controlling asshat, basically treating me like I'm his mother, controlling my finances, telling me which friends and family I can or can't see, using my past traumas as excuses for my outbursts, and calling me crazy or asking if I had taken my meds that day, or just using my poor mental health against me. Flip flopping between nice and nasty, emotion, blackmail, manipulation. So, what you have there, folks, is a great example of someone who has built a strong case of why they broke up. So this woman elegantly tells it from her standpoint. This is why I broke up. She's got a long list of reasons, right? And I'm sure when she broke up, if those were her reasons, she was done. And this was a doesn't say, they were married for 9 years. Married for nearly 2, but together for 9 years. So it sounds like one of those situations too. This guy changed once they got married. And I would just, ask her, were all these things in play during the full 9 years or just the last couple of years? Bottom line is you built a case, a strong case. You got a lot of reasons here that you broke up. He also started abusing my hearing dog by shouting at him and forcing him to stay on the bed at all times, determining his mental health. The dog just stopped alerting me altogether. The dog couldn't simply exist without my ex getting all upset. I sought out help from a DA charity who work with deaf community. I'm profoundly deaf and managed to get the courage to eventually leave for good in March this year and currently live with my mom 45 minutes away. Okay. I've been keeping in touch with my ex, but on a very limited contact in case I need to get stuff out of the house, which he is living in. Context. It's a shared ownership, which let me put this up here. Let's put this up. I've been keeping in touch with the ex. Very limited. Okay. It's a shared ownership, which we both are listed on the deed for. I keep telling him it's not going to work out if he still thinks I'm overreacting him and crazy and that he believes he is not in the wrong. I get messages saying 1 minute he loves me, he's sorry, and really wants to change. And then the next minute, it's your past traumas are not letting you be who you are and are the reason for telling me this crap. You're not the real you anymore. Well, bottom line is you're either broken up or you're not. If you're staying in contact with them, get your stuff out of the house. Okay. So if this person's manipulative and verbally abusive, then you just need to cut off contact completely. I've recently started seeing someone else since I do not cope with the single life and I could be surrounded by my nearest and dearest, yet still feel incredibly alone. I've mentioned to the ex, but he just thinks I'm fibbing and I'll come back eventually. See, here's the interesting thing. You're broken up. You're extremely unhappy with this individual, and you're still complaining about him. You're still complaining because you haven't cut him off completely. The idea that I do not cope with single life, so you're already with someone new. I think you need some time, some therapy, some coaching on your own as an individual just to figure out what are these issues that you have on your own. If this guy really did treat you that bad, you need some time and space away from that, and you need to officially be out of each other's space. I've told him he needs to get a grip and decide whether to buy me out my half of the deed or sell up the house entirely and give me half of the equity in it. But this is ignored. I can't afford to legal advice as literally I'm living paycheck to paycheck. He wants me to still pay the house bills, which I am not. And I just feel stuck. So here we go. Here's one of the big you're upset, you got all these issues. Um, you need to just sell the house. Okay. And if you what you could do probably is you could probably find a lawyer that's willing to get paid after you sell the house. There's probably one out there. But once you sell the house beyond money, you guys just need to get out of each other's space because now you're just taking cheap shots at each other. And that's not good for anyone. All right, let me get to this. My girlfriend, 24, isn't speaking to me. 27-year-old after finding out I've been with a guy, what should I do? For context, me and my girlfriend have been together for 5 years and basically has been smooth sailing over this. A few days ago, though, we were having a conversation about how my university life was over a glass of wine. We were scrolling through pics I had. Then she asked about a guy she saw in many of them, and I stupidly told her he was my ex-boyfriend. At first, she laughed, but when she understood I was serious, she got a weird look on her face. At that point, I knew I messed up. Well, you didn't mess up, you just told the truth, but didn't expect her to outright stop talking to me. She didn't say a word, and I tried to have a conversation many times. Well, I think that that's one of those things that if she found it out, she'd be shocked, she'd be upset, and she'd be uncomfortable. Is it something maybe she can get over? Yeah, possibly, but the way she found out is gonna upset her. Even if it was, a woman, right? She'd still be upset that you're hanging out with an ex. So double stamp that with the shock that you're bi, and she had no idea. Earlier this morning, she left her parents' house, but thankfully she hasn't packed anything, so I'm hopeful. How do I ever try to resolve things since she is clearly not open to discussing it? Uh, this might s I wouldn't try to discuss it right now. She needs to process the situation and actually consider, is that something that she can deal with? You think that, "Oh, I'm gonna talk my way out of this." Right now, she just needs to process it because it's a shocking thing. When something shocking happened, um, there's a process period someone has to go through. Alright, let's go into this one. How do I communicate this better to my wife? 32, 30, 28-year-old female. My wife hold on a sec. Let's move this up. How do I communicate this better to my wife? My wife is just not getting that after working 24 hours on an ambulance. When I get home, I want to rest and decompress. This morning, I thought she was cooking breakfast. She texted me to let her know when I was on the way home. And when I got home, instead of her cooking breakfast, she put some cinnamon rolls in the oven and told me I was in charge of cooking eggs and walked away. I don't think she meant it maliciously, but I feel like she doesn't understand what working for 24 hours with little to no sleep is like. I've seen two dead people since midnight. One committed suicide, and I had to see that and the family breaking down. My mind is gone. How do I communicate to her that when I get home, I need time and I don't want to do anything until I decompress? This is a great question. And this is actually what leads to breakups. So, someone out there might be going, "What's up, Miguel?" Uh, Someone out there might be going, "Oh, that doesn't apply to me." This guy says, "How do I communicate better?" He has a specific situation. This is specific. Okay. Um, He's an ambulance driver, I would think in paramedic. He has a lot of drama. He's saying he's working 24 hours. Comes home, breakfast isn't served, and she's asking him to do things that his mind just can't deal with right now. Okay. Number one, don't make the eggs or anything like that. If you want your cinnamon rolls that she left you, fine. Take a rest. Do some meditation, breathing techniques, or I like tapping also. Calm yourself down. You just went through a lot of stuff in one shift. You lost some people, they died. That has nothing to do with her in the sense that she can relate to that right off the bat. Now, you might be able to give her a text and go, "Look, hon, I had a really rough night last night. We lost a couple of people. I'm just going to lay down and take a rest." Right? Then on the weekend or when you have a day off, you go out to lunch, you go out to breakfast, and you have a chat about it when you're calm and you have your full faculties, meaning that you're not emotionally charged. So when you have a conversation about something you're upset about, don't do it, right? When you're exhausted or you're sensitive. I've never experienced being on an ambulance for 24 hours or dealing with people die in front of me that way. But that's not the time to have the talk with your wife, right? Or your girlfriend in this case, whatever it is. Time to do that is on the weekend or when you have time and you have your full faculties to explain, look, I had a long night. And sometimes I feel like you just can't understand where I'm coming from. On the flip side, you also need to involve some kind of way for you to calm down, right? And then also, if your expectation is just to get breakfast, talk about that, right? Talk about that. Talk about how you can communicate better too. But the main thing is don't bring it up while you're really upset. Bring it up when you've had a full night of sleep and you're like, hey, I just want to say that, like last Tuesday, if I seemed off, I was upset. This is what happened at work. And I thought you were making breakfast. Bring it up at a different time to talk about it because she can't relate. She doesn't know what's going on. From the outside, you're like, doesn't it seem obvious? No, because she wasn't with you on that ambulance for 24 hours. Well, this is a good one. People seem to think that my husband doesn't treat me right. Do you think they're right? Okay, so number one, you decide what your morals and values are in your relationship. Okay, that's number one. If you want to let other people decide what's right or what's wrong, then you're gonna be a basket case and you're gonna be living other people's lives. So you need to decide that. You set your boundaries. You set what's wrong or right, not them. And if you start letting people do that, you'll be extremely frustrated. My husband and I have been married for many years. We're always pretty happy and we enjoy spending time with each other. Sometimes my husband gets angry, but it's only because he has a stressful job and he often is away from home traveling. All right. So right there, you're validating in your own way. Okay, my husband gets angry or cranky might be the word, but he has a stressful job and he's often home traveling. So for you, you're like, I understand why, so I can deal with it. I always do everything I can to make sure that he's happy and he's not too stressed out from work. However, people think that I overcompensate and they say things like you always do everything for him, but he doesn't give you half as much in return. So, who are these people and what are their relationships like? Number one question. Number two question, do you want their relationship? So, for example, let's say it's Sally that's your neighbor and she's like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you and John, you do everything for him. You make him food, you do the laundry, you do all these things, and you've been married 30 years and you're okay with it." Now you're like, "Maybe Sally's right." And Sally is single and has been divorced 2 times. Or Sally has a boyfriend that is a doormat and she bosses around everywhere. Do you want her boyfriend? No. Do you want her advice? No, not in that particular case, but maybe you guys like to hang out, have lunch, and gossip. That's where you separate things. And a lot of times people will impose relationship advice on other people because they're not happy or they're jealous. So if you're happy and it's your pleasure to take care of your husband and you think he's stressful, that's your relationship. Um, for instance, my husband and son were brainstorming business ideas together. I thought of some good ideas myself and was ready to share just in case. However, every time I tried to speak, my husband would get angry and tell me, "Stop interrupting." My son then told my husband that he should stop yelling at me. I honestly didn't think my husband was yelling. He can be a little outspoken. He has a tendency to be territorial over things that involve work and business. Are people right or is my husband in the wrong? That's for you to decide. I would say this is specific toward like right now, what you did a really good job of. You didn't just, oh, my husband doesn't treat me well. You gave me specific examples of what other people are saying are bad. Now, in a particular case where him and his son or your son were talking about business, you feel like you didn't interrupt, but you were trying to give in ideas and he pushed you out of the conversation. That could be a case where he feels like you don't know a whole lot about business and he's trying to talk to the son directly. It could be rude. You could address it, or you could act like you could feel like, you know what, I'll air that later on. My point is, who are the people and what are their relationships that are giving you advice or judgments on your relationship? Okay. The fact that you have to question that. We got three on deck. If anyone has any question or comments, put it down. I'll get to it. If you need direct advice, go to writemac.com. If you want to jump on the stream right now, I can do that also. We always have that. All right. Let's get into the next one. People do this all the time. Oh, well, my friends are telling me this about your relationship. This happened a while back. Someone was a close friend of mine uh, that works at a gym was telling me this story how someone at the gym uh, had created this situation where she was married. She's in her late 20s. She's married to an older guy in his 40s, and the guy's extremely jealous. So he's always checking up on her. And she's flirtatious and basically would fall under that emotional cheating thing at work. And she's done this with numerous guys at work, and then she falls back to her husband and says, "Oh, this guy's been hitting on me." But it's emotional cheating, right? And the guy that's my friend is like, "Oh, that's so wrong. That's the worst thing." And I was talking to Kelly at work, and she says that's the worst thing that you could have in a relationship. And I stopped him right there. I'm like, "Do you think that's the worst thing that can be in a relationship, or is that what Kelly thinks?" Do you know what I mean? For example, if I had a girlfriend and she's a personal trainer, she works at the gym, and I'm 10 or 15 years older, immediately there's gonna be a little bit more subconscious thinking like, hey, you're gonna be coming across a lot of guys. I also have to take into account her personality. Is she flirtatious by nature? Is she bubbly and outgoing by nature? Do I believe she'll be loyal? Those are all variables within my relationship within me. The idea that everyone needs to be upset because someone else is quote unquote emotionally cheating at the gym is ridiculous. Because some guy could go, you know what? I take it as a compliment. My woman gets hit on all the time and she's hot and she looks good and she looks great. And that's just the price I got to pay. But actually, I'm pretty proud of it and I trust her. Is being single, Miguel Coronado says, is being single for a long time bad? What's the longest time you have been single? Ooh, that's a good question. Number one, why would being single be bad? Some people are single their whole life. I think Nikola Tesla was single his whole life. Do I want his life? No. Was he an absolute genius? Yes. Um, you need to make that decision for yourself. There's no shame in it. Unfortunately, when you get to certain ages in your life, there becomes more pressure about being single. So if you're getting things done, you're happy with your own life, I will say this, to be content, to be okay with being single is really a nice superpower because it says you like who you are, you're being more selective and you're being picky, which is a good thing. If you're being single for a long time because you're scared of dating or because um, you feel like you're not enough or you feel like you're not good looking or you have those reasons, then you need to go to work on those reasons because you're not single by choice. You're single because you have some limited beliefs, some bad stories you're telling yourself. And there's all kinds of reasons someone can be single for a long time. I remember there was a friend when I was in high school that had a bad injury. I don't remember what it was specifically. I think it was a bad ankle injury or a knee injury, but the poor guy was off his feet for 6 to 8 months, gained a lot of weight because he couldn't exercise, and he was probably single for, 2 years after that. Now, is it easy to go dating when you have a big knee brace on? No. He probably wanted to wait, and then he had to overcome, going so there's all kinds of reasons is my point. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's bad though, and I've had a few clients like this that they get revved up, they get on the dating apps, they start going to the gym, they get a nice haircut, they start feeling better about themselves, and then they go on, like, a few bad dates, then they get a couple good dates, and then they're dating someone. And they're feeling really good about it. Things are going really well. And then it falls off a cliff. They ghost them or they start seeing someone else and they get completely defeated, upset, angry. And then they just go, you know what? I'm okay being single. And they sort of give up. And when they give up, they go, well, I'm just happy I can be single for the rest of my life. I have a dog and a cat. And we're social creatures. So if you're going to lean into being single for the rest of your life or for a long period of time, hopefully you're getting that interaction from somewhere else in your life. You got roommates, you got close ties to your family, you work in a good environment. There's all other kinds of things. What's the longest time I've been single? Let me see here. Probably a year. I want to say a year or a year and a half. And I'm thinking actually in my early 20s, I was single for a long time. Uh yeah, my early 20s. I would say from about 21 to 24, I was single. I lived in San Diego at the time. It was a lot of fun. And I wasn't against having a girlfriend, but I also wasn't looking. I was enjoying myself, I had a lot of friends. I was extremely busy with school. I was going to university and working full time. So I didn't really have a lot of extra time, to be honest. But I would say during that 21 to 24 time of being single, there wasn't a time that I was, "Oh, I'm single. Was there something wrong with me?" And then my next relationship, I believe at 23, 24, I'm not sure if it was which one it was, 2 to 3 years, yeah. It kind of, happened in a way that, we were seeing each other, it wasn't like we had the intention to be together, but we ended up being together for the next 5 years. So from, I think, 23 or 24 to, like, 28, 25, 29, I was with this girlfriend. We had a great relationship. So being single for that long period of time, one thing that I will say if you're single for a long period of time is to really own in on what you want, right? Like, what do you want moving forward? And be selective. Don't settle. And one thing that's a benefit of being okay with being single and not having a time zone on it or feeling like, oh, it's been too long. One of the benefits of that is that if you go on bad dates, which is gonna happen these days, especially with dating apps, you're just gonna go out and it's like a blind date. You can accept that because you're like, "It's okay, I'm okay being single." It's on to the next date. It's on to the next discovery mission, I call it. That's why I always say go on some bad dates because it's a discovery mission. And as you lean into being single and okay with it, you can be more selective. right? And you can be more picky, and that's a great thing. In US must be very important to put in relationship on Facebook. I don't know. I don't really use Facebook. I think for some people it is. Depends on the person. Social norm pleasing at the highest. I mean, this is what society is now. Yeah, you have social norms are different in different places, right? Um, but being okay with being single for a long time, I think it's a good experience in your life. Just like if you look at the benefits of fasting, right? I'm not going to get into that, and I don't have the knowledge that some people have on fasting, right? But you would have never thought 25 years ago that not eating for a long period of time was such a healthy thing. And what it does, one of the things it does, I've only done it a few times, it definitely makes you appreciate good food 10 times more. So if you're, when you think about it, um, when you're single for a long time, right? And the thing when you're single, are you busy with other things in your life that satisfy you? Because what I found looking back, Miguel, when you asked me about, oh, you were single for 3 years in your early 20s, someone would be like, wow, you in your 21 to 24, whatever it was, or yeah, it was about that. Did you miss not? No, I didn't miss anything because I had a lot of friends. Uh, I had a good job. I went to school. I was busy. I had a lot of other things to do. And so there wasn't a lot of free time to fit in a girlfriend, nor a need. I didn't feel like it was needed. Um, but I met a lot of good women and I went on, I wouldn't say I went on a lot of dates because dating, it was just one of those areas I lived in was, it was just social. There was a lot of people in your area that were young. It was easy to meet people and it wasn't during dating apps. So it was different. And as Miguel knows and everyone else knows, environments count. So the environment you live in is going to dictate um, sometimes how long you're single, right? You want to go to Alaska when you're fishing for salmon. The best place to get salmon. It's like, what's your area look like for the type of partner you want? All right, folks, we got four on deck. Does anyone have any other questions or comments? And do you like this Reddit format? Any other questions or comments? These are interesting questions, though, that come up on these. Let's see here. This is actually a good question. Let's get into this one. Miguel will like this one probably. My goal is to be single for 5 years. I don't know if that's a goal to have. Here's what I would say. I'm not telling you what to do. Um, I would say be single for 5 years is fine, but be open to meeting someone that excites you, and in the process of, because I know you, we've done a lot of coaching together and hypnosis. Um, in the process of committing to that 5 years, be open to the fact that if you meet a good girl that makes you happy and excited and it's effortless, then go for it. Don't be married to the idea of being single for 5 years. I will say this though, if you have a extreme load of work or school, it is more difficult to date, right? So you just have less time and patience with it. Um, but it's certainly not a negative. It's certainly not a negative. As the great Corey Wayne, I haven't met someone cooler that's saying of knock your socks off. And the cool thing about that is, though, Miguel, you're not looking, so that if you did meet them, it would just be a bonus, and it would be very, clean. It wouldn't be you're not anxious, you're not gonna settle, you're not hard up to have a girlfriend. So that means you're open to letting go of subpar candidates or contenders, right? And that's a good position to be in. It's a really good position to be in because you will meet one in the next 5 years, probably that does knock your socks off. Now, here's the crazy part. People are saying, about the love bombing thing. We talked about it earlier in the red flags. What are the red flags your ex showed? I think when you're single for a longer period of time and you're not in a rush to be with someone, you have more of an ability to read out those red flags. Whereas someone just doesn't want to be single, doesn't like to be alone, um, they're just they usually overlook those red flags because they can't handle being alone. Confused to what to do, losing interest. My 24-year-old boyfriend, why doesn't he want to have sex with me anymore? Me and my boyfriend have been together 6 years, and recently he hasn't really wanted to have sex with me. He still expects me to send him nude pics and other content for him, but I get nothing in return, no nudes. He's never given me oral in the first place, nothing. Sometimes I'll just go go stand next to him naked when he's playing a game, and he'll maybe graze his hand over me and ask why I'm standing there. So it sounds to me like, if he's asking you to send him videos and nudes, that he's probably getting off on videos, probably porn or something like that. Also, anytime someone's been together 5 or 6 years, uh, there's sometimes a slump, right, of boredom. I just feel unwanted and ugly. I'm very sexual person. We went from having sex 4 to 5 times a week to once every 2 weeks if I'm lucky. I don't understand this shift in our sex life. Has anyone experienced this in a relationship? For interest, I'm 5'2", work out 4 to 5 days a week, C cup. So it's me. At this point, he'd rather play Genshin than have with me. Yeah. So and yes, I've tried communicating. He just bottom line is he's bored, and that's not your fault. So why do you cop mirror mirror? That's not your fault. A lot of times people absolutely get bored with their partner sexually. Okay, that's just common, and that's not your fault. You're trying things. Really, what you might want to try is to break up or remove yourself for a week or 2 weeks. So giving him no attention at all for a week or 2 weeks, almost going on protest. The other part, it sounds like he might be a gamer, and if he's into just video and nudes rather than actually doing the thing, he might be obsessed with his digital life more than his real life, and that happens. That happens with a lot of people in their 20s right now. If you look that good and you feel good about yourself, there's plenty of other guys out there that want a woman that is sexually vibrant, right? So what I would say is if you've talked about it and that's not working, remove your attention, stop trying. Go on a 2-week vacation and let them feel what it's like without you. Had a dumb dream about Gia last night, so it's weird. Over 2 years. He's talking about his ex. Well, you can always dream. You can dream about anyone in your past. Born alone, die alone. Most of these problems come with thinking a relationship is supposed to last forever. When realize it's only temporary, the relationship has gratitude. Hmm, I suppose so. People don't really think of it that way. Oh, the relationship is temporary because temporary seems so short. Temporary is extremely short, right? If your idea is that every relationship is temporary, hmm, Nothing lasts forever kind of a thing. There's truth to all that. It doesn't take away the fact that people get attached or extremely involved. If 50 years, great, but to enter into that way, yeah, man. Um, People that are married for 50 years, they don't always have happy or great relationships. They're just good at commitment. If you've ever been around people that have been married a long time, they don't always seem like everything's peaches and cream. It's true. So it's like being a teacher for years, right? Almost 13 years I was a teacher. The students that have got straight A's, some people think that they're extremely smart or intelligent, and in some cases they are. And in my opinion, people that are extremely smart or intelligent usually process quick, remember things really well, and have a positive attitude about learning. But there are some people that are just like people that if they go to the gym, they can put on, a lot of muscle quick. That's a genetic thing. There's people that just process quick. There's people that retain information really well. But if they have a limited belief that they're not good at school or not good at writing, and how does that limited belief start? I'll tell you how. They have a teacher when they're 7 years old that says their writing's horrible. For the rest of their life, they believe their writing's horrible and they'll never write a book. They'll never be able to write again in a confident way. So the process, the ability of them processing and the ability of them to retain information or write is actually put at a dead stop by that story from an authority figure. Now, what you have to realize is you can go back to that story and rewrite it. That's what I do with hypnosis or EFT. And when you rewrite that, you untangle it, and now suddenly your potential to be a good writer is freed up because you realize that that teacher just told you a story that wasn't true when you were young. It was just an opinion. So that's what happens a lot. Now, the best student, someone's like, oh, wow, he's the student in your class must be the most intelligent, the most smart. A majority of the time, the person that gets A's, they're just good at school. What does that mean? School is about completing tasks. It's about a schedule that you have to conform to, right? You go, here's your schedule, here's your tasks, here's your test. Now, how do you get through that? You study, you learn how to write. Now, there's some kids that aren't highly intelligent or process quick that get A's. They work harder at it, but they also put the value on school. Now, here's another thing. Let me drop this a little bit deeper. Let's just say, and I remember this, I had a counselor in junior college. I went to junior college before I went to college, whatever that means, right? And the counselor's like, look, in your third or fourth year, college will get easier. And I thought to myself, what does he mean? You get better at taking tests. You get better at writing papers. You get better at dealing with your teachers. Now, what happens is you'll have some students who are extremely smart and intelligent and maybe have a background. They went to science camp when they were 8, and their mom's a PhD in literature, so they can write a great paper and all these other things, right? And then they get a teacher that gives them a C because that teacher is different than the other teachers in how they grade. And now that kid's got a problem because he's like, wait a minute, or she, I did everything right. And I did all these things in the other classes, but this teacher, I don't understand why they're grading this way. This teacher must be dumb. This teacher must be stupid. No, that's part of your education. Okay. Part of your education, especially at the university level, which I used to teach at, is learning your teacher, because really what they're training you to do a lot of times in university is to have a job. Now, because you have a schedule, right? You have tasks or work. Then you get judged on it. Your reward is the degree. Your reward at a job is money. When you get the degree, you get status, you get connections if your school has a big alumni. Now, going back to that, like I said, a lot of times someone say, "Oh, the kid that gets A's must be the smartest kid in the room." Sometimes they're just good at school. They're good at the task. And what happens is in the third, fourth, fifth year, they get better at that. Now, if they can take that work ethic and that ability to learn a process or a system, which school is, it translates well to the work field, because that's what's going to happen. Now, when people would come to me, they go, "Oh, I hate such and such teacher. They do this and that." That's part of your education. That teacher you don't like, you're going to come across a manager or a boss you don't like. That's the way it is. I had a good friend that got into a really good university in San Francisco, a private school. And he had, I think it was, I don't want to say a full ride, but it was a big scholarship. And he was living in the dorms. He lasted about 6 months. He was in computer programming, science, something computers, maybe programming, something like that. And he was like, "Ah, I just don't want to do all this English and history and these other, classes to get my degree." So he left and he just did a trade school that did programming or something like that. And he eventually got to where he wanted to get to. And someone was like, from my standpoint, when I was at San Francisco State at the time, I was like, "Wow, you're ruining this opportunity to, be at a great school." Part of your education is taking those classes you don't like and getting through them, because that's how life is, right? You got to do some things you don't like. But on the flip side, he found an alternative that actually worked. He's got a great job now. He's doing well in life. He didn't want to do those other jobs. So at that time when I was 22 judging the situation from the sidelines, I was wrong. There's way more options to do things differently. So someone says, "Oh, I want a great job." You don't necessarily have to get a degree. Thoughts of red pill community? I think that they've gained steam, it sounds like. It's not something that I hear about as much as I used to. What's happened with it, I think, is that it's been infiltrated by a lot of people that are um, trying to trigger people, but also feeding off of individuals that want to hate women or dating or things like that. And they're just frustrated. And a lot of the content now has gotten sensational. Not all. I don't think it started that way. It's just gotten progressively worse. And Fresh and Fit, that shows a good example of something. I would compare it to um, fake wrestling. So there's a real version of Greco-Roman wrestling, right? That actually, when you think about it, uh, doesn't get talked about a lot. Wrestling now, Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, this stuff's staged, right? And give the guys credit, because I don't think it's an easy thing. It's like a stunt man, right? And it's really popular, but the build up to it, the characters, the costumes, the crowd, it's staged. It's not a real event. Greco-Roman wrestling is real. So if someone, you got a buddy in high school that does high school wrestling. Um, he's not doing what Hulk Hogan did. They're doing real fighting or wrestling, right? They're really getting hurt. They're really competing on who wins and who doesn't. There's rules, there's different games to it. When you get into the red pill community, there's some truths there. But what they've done is they've made them more sensational, and they've mixed in a lot of sarcasm and jokes and putting down women to get views. Because right now in America, we love to embarrass people. It's very popular, right? It's been like that for a while. It's a cultural thing, and it's popular. It's what we're seeing in sports now. There's always been celebrating in American sports. Now it's gone to a new level, right? And so you embarrassing people is quite funny in American culture. And this is what a lot of the red pill community's biggest advocates really got a lot of views on, right? They would get women on a TV show or something like that and berate them and choose women that were easy to be berated. Um, and now it's just gotten a little bit out of hand. Just like I said, and the reason why I was bringing up fake wrestling is that the advice given on red pill, I think some of these guys are married. Some of these guys don't take all that advice, but they're just going for views or sensationalism is what I would call it. And it makes money, right? Because there's individuals out there that want to believe in that. Is all the stuff in red pill wrong? No. It's highly debatable. It's just one of those movements that's gotten really big. And so in getting big, there's good ones and bad ones that follow it. There's good content and bad content. I used to look at the floor in history lessons and dream about laying down on it for a sleep. Yes, I meet people like that at work life too. Yeah, I keep getting better and better at school, but I had to empty my head of BS beliefs that hypnosis helped me with. Yeah, you definitely Miguel and I did some good hypnosis work together with some stories he had going. Well said, yes, bad teachers are a lesson too. They are. And the thing is that you're gonna deal with that in your own life, right? The good thing about having a bad teacher, if you can get through that class, you don't have to take them again. See, this is what happens with, bad relationships, right? You get a bad girlfriend. Sometimes it's hard to get out of that relationship, and that's probably for a whole whole 'nother show, but the idea of, um, having a lot of entanglements with someone you start dating, you're attracted to, you get good intimacy, and then you find a point in the relationship 6 months, a year, 3 years where you're like, "This is really bad." And from the outside, people are like, "Oh, why don't you just break up?" It's not that easy, right? It's not that easy because if you live together, you work together, if your family knows each other, people just can't cut bait that easy, and you care about the person even if they're bad. Because you look at it on a lower level. Let's say high school. You always have a group of friends. Maybe some people are loners out there, right? They're the outliers. But you always find a group or a group of friends. Some people are really popular, but some people just have a clique, right? Like our 4 or 5 friends, whatever it is, 3 friends, best friend. A lot of times when you get to your mid to late 20s, you're still friends with those people if you stayed in the same area, but you'll often look at them differently because you don't have the same interest or life experience, but also maybe you're like, "Actually, Joe's not really a good person, and all these years that we've been really good friends, I don't like the way he talks to other people." And now when you're older, you can see it more clearly. The great thing about that, though, is you guys don't stay together, you don't have this big history, so you can just cut the person off and stop talking with them. All right, Fresh and Fit saying women are all bad, but chooses OnlyFans models to go on the podcast. Yeah. Fresh and Fit, when I first saw that show, I thought, wow, what a cool um setup, like the way the room's set up, all the mics, the music, the production. I thought, wow, this is fucking cool, man. And then they got a lot of people that are really popular on YouTube already, and that helped their views go up. But now it's just sensationalism. I don't even know if they believe what they're doing. Some of their stuff seems staged, right? It's almost like for years, and I've talked about this before in other live streams, the real world on MTV. It's supposed to be real people living in real houses, having real roommate issues, right? When the reality is they're rents free, they live in a sick ass house, they're all from different areas, and they're constantly drinking. They're all in their 20s. Real world, they usually chose pretty good looking people, right? And so um the show wanted to have issues and problems because that's what's good TV, right? So you'd watch the real world and you'd think, wow, these people are having it out all the time. And they were just, that was a 1 hour show from 2 weeks of living. But I'd also add that I've known some people that were on the shows and they said it was staged. It kind of surprised me. They staged events. So what you got to realize is it's like when I'm doing this live stream right now, I prepare a little bit for the Reddit post. A lot of times I just go on and I'm going to improvise along the way. It's not fully staged other than this background, right? So a lot of the things you get uh, with some of these really popular groups, they have an agenda and they're playing a character that's not them, that's trying to get attention. Years back, going back to the wrestling thing, um, Hulk Hogan, who I think a lot of people know, the wrestler Hulk Hogan, was actually suing. He was suing this guy. No, it was TMZ TV. TMZ. He was suing TMZ because they had released a sex tape with him and another woman while he was married. And it was his best friend's wife or something. And his best friend wanted him to go with his wife. But in the court case, he told the judge, he goes, look, Hulk Hogan is an alter ego. It's an actor I play. He goes, his real name, I think, is Terry. It's not even Terry Hogan. It's Terry something. He goes, I'm a real person. And this has affected me as a real person beyond Hulk Hogan. And he won the case for whatever it was. But getting back to that red pill community or fresh and fit, they're playing characters, right? They're playing that out. Thoughts on people committing suicide? Do you think it's coward or selfish? God damn, that's pretty deep, isn't it, Miguel? Uh, it's different for different people. What I've learned is that I don't live everyone else's life. So it's really easy to hear um, someone committed suicide and to say, oh, wow, they're really selfish. They were only 22 years old and they had the world by the balls. But the reality is, I don't know what brought them to that point. And so it's different for different people. I wouldn't judge them that way. I have heard people say it's selfish. The number one thing to ask someone that's thinking about it is, why haven't you done it yet? Now, that seems like that would be triggering, but that gives them a seed right away to go, like, what am I living for? Right? Because I'm being a teacher at the university level, I've had multiple students that have come to me about it. You don't run from it. I'd also add that the thought is an extremely common thought amongst humans. Whether that happens when you're young or whether that happens when you're 25, I don't know. But it's more common than you think. Just like when you have ill thoughts and you're like, push that away, that was stupid. It's just one of those things. A lot of people, they think about it and then they let it go, or they whatever. So I think for different people, it would be different. Um, to just call someone a coward or selfish, I'd need another story and what they've been through in their life. I would never recommend someone do that or support that. But the idea of understanding that they've had a tremendous pain that they can't get over, I still don't think it's the right thing to do. I still don't support it. But on the flip side, I would never call them a coward. Fresh and Fit is a show on YouTube that's been extremely popular. They do a lot of live streams too. Difference between dating in your era compared to now. In my era, what am I, 100? Um, well, I'm 43 right now. Dating in my 20s, Yeah, much different. It was much more based on familiarity is what I would call it. So to me right now, dating's at a point where you have you have dating apps, which are basically blind dates, right? You don't really know the person. Now you know them from their baseball card. And when you look at these dating apps now, I don't know if this is everyone else, but it's provocative photos win the day, but also like you have to big yourself up or say some nice things about yourself. You're like selling yourself. It's almost like a mini advertisement. But for some women on these dating apps, and maybe there's men too, I don't know, because I've only seen women that are single, right? Um, they have to tell you like, well, I want this, this, and this is all I'm looking for, or I'll swipe left, you know what I mean? It's an immediate turnoff because dating at its best is just getting to know each other, just a discovery mission. It's like, let's just see what happens. Let's just go have fun. I don't know if you know what I mean? Where there's all these expectations before you even swipe or make contact with each other. So it's a totally different ball game. And some people are good at that game. Some people enjoy it. Some people like it. Just like I said, some people are built for school. They just like school, right? They like tasks and they do really well. It doesn't mean they're extremely smart. It means they're good at school. Some people are good at dating apps. They're good at taking pictures. They're good at responding quickly, right? They're extremely comfortable with meeting someone that's a stranger. There's all kinds of things to it, right? Where the old type of dating to me, which I liked, was familiarity, which is basically you're going to meet people through your circle of friends, your family, some cases for people, church, school, or work, right? And through meeting those people through those interactions, when you actually go on a date, it's not a blind date like a dating app. It's someone that you've been working with or you've known for a couple months, or you've seen each other around, or you know each other through friends. There was no catfishing, right? So getting back to that, familiarity was the old way. And even like I said, if it was a blind date, you knew them through someone else. Totally different thing. So familiarity, dating apps, and then just when you're in a college environment or something like that, one night stands or hookups or things like that, they can grow into dating. I've known plenty of people that had a one night stand that ends up being their wife, right? Is that recommended? No, but it happens. So the familiarity thing is less popular because more people work from home. And I think that there's a large portion of people in their 20s that are less um, oriented towards building up that familiarity with live interactions rather than texting and different things like that. So yeah, that would be a big difference in my era. There just wasn't dating apps or um, the internet being used so much. Let's see here. Mirror, mirror. I just want to check. I know you're in Thailand, but give me your nickname if I know you, because I definitely don't know a mirror, mirror. But that's a interesting name. How did you choose mirror, 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 mirror on the wall? Difference between dating and your era compared to now. They have some good advice about getting in shape and making more money. Well, there you go. Must be some California lifestyle. No, it's a Florida lifestyle. Impulsive, escape from a pain that is temporary, sad. Guns make that easy, huh? Um, See, this is where okay. So you say there's an impulsive escape from a pain that is temporary or is sad. But there are some people out there that are in a pain that it isn't temporary, right? Or in the moment, or it's not working. And that's why I said I don't support it, and I don't think it's a good idea for someone to off themselves or anything like that. No. What I am saying though is the idea that every individual has a different situation. Until you know their individual situation, background, or why they do things, it's really easy to group them in. And so, it's case by case, human by human, and the stories you don't know behind their life are really um, blocking you from being more compassionate sometimes. I only know that from doing what I've done for years and being a teacher for years. The minute someone opens up, if Mirror sat down with me and said, "Hey, from 0 to 5, this is the 3 worst things that happened to me. From 5 to 10, these are the 3 worst things that happened to me. From 10 to 15, these are the worst things that happened to me." And we went through all those things. I'd come away and I'd go, first of all, I would understand Mirror better. Secondly, I would know where their issues came from because those bad things that happen, they create a lot of storylines. Number 1, breakup. Number 2, sign up for a dating app. Number 3, get validated. Number 4, quit app. I think a lot of women do that. It's easy for them. Avoiding dating apps, loads of online clubs and interests to join instead, I'd say. Online club. So what's an example of an online club you're in? So what you're saying about these online clubs, like Discords and stuff, that you're building attraction through familiarity. And the interesting thing about the familiarity thing is, um, this is where, to me, dating apps, like you have one chance in those swipes to get a good picture that catches someone's eye. Maybe some people read the bios and things like that. But if someone's swipe, they're just looking for the best looking, and then maybe it works out. But with the meeting on online clubs, which I don't know a lot of specific online clubs what you're talking about, but over time through familiarity, you gain attraction on multiple levels when you talk more, right? Where a dating app is like, let's text, let's talk a little bit on the phone, but let's just go out. And then you get these awkward situations where you meet up, the person doesn't look like their picture, you have no familiarity. If it doesn't go well right off the get go, it gets extremely uncomfortable. There's people out there just trying to get free dinners or extravagant dates just to have fun. And that's what's different than when you meet someone over time or organically. And there's, like I said, there's nothing wrong with dating apps. It's just some people strive and thrive with them, and some people don't. And some people just don't like the process. Aha, Florida. Yeah, it's Florida. It was when I was younger. I was such a hothead. Jim from Birmingham spent time living on Copignon. Jim from Birmingham spent time living on Copignon. Huh. Trying to think of the Jim I know. I don't think it's the same Jim. Life into cars, then car forums. Okay, makes sense. I'm sure loads of singles here. You asked my nickname. Ah, gotcha. And why I know a bit of Thai. Gotcha. Gotcha. Copignon. Yes, I get into mid-20s. I feel much more mature. Well, that's good. Then I was as a teen. That's good, man. You're getting into your mid-20s. Yeah, wait till you get to your 40s. Then you'll feel like, oh man, in my 20s, I thought I knew everything. That's good. That's good progress. You're seeing your growth. I think um, one thing that's overlooked about self-improvement and um, maybe being disappointed or upset where you're at in your life right now, or what have you. A good thing to do sometimes is just go, am I better than 6 months ago? It's a good question. Like, am I doing better than I was 6 months ago? And then make a list. Like, what have I done in the last 6 months? And you know what? I think what we get lost in is like, you don't need some big fucking list of achievements where you've made a bunch of money. Um, you don't need all that, right? But sometimes it's just small things that you've made an improvement on. And you look back and you're like, all right, from 6 months ago, I'm better off. And usually the crazy thing is if you're at ground zero or you've had a really bad thing happen, you had a bad breakup, you lost your job, you've had to move and it wasn't good. There's nowhere to go but up, as cliche as that sounds, and it sucks. But zero sometimes is a good place to be at. And then when you look 6 months later, you're still not satisfied or you're not happy with where you're at, but you're like, you know what? I've done some things. I've gotten some things done. I'm happy with that. It's like Miguel, you're in college. Every 6 months, you get closer to your degree. Since working with you and the therapists have grown a lot. Absolutely. You know, when I was in my 20s, I didn't go to therapy. I didn't talk to a coach, and I never probably would have. If someone would have suggested that to me in my 20s, I would have laughed. It wasn't even in my group of friends, didn't even talk about that. No one would ever talk about going to therapy or anything like that. No one would, or a coach. I would highly recommend it to people. Now, here's the catch. Be selective. Be selective. There's a lot of coaches, therapists, doctors out there. It's not a given that they're all going to give you the same advice or help. You got to find a good match for you. So that's the catch. Is sometimes people go to a therapist or a coach, and they have a bad experience or they feel like they wasted their money, and then they go, I'll never do that again. If you have the extra money or the ability to do it, I would spend your money on that rather than a lot of other things. And really, people that are highly successful, they use coaches. I have about 5 regular clients. When I say regular clients, I mean we talk 2 to 3 times a month, and they're highly successful and make a lot of money, and they just wanna reinforce that, and they wanna get out ahead of their problems. So when they have a problem, they're like, "Hey, can I talk to you this week, Mac?" Send me a quick email. And sometimes it has nothing to do with relationships. It's just that we're comfortable now. They're comfortable now that I've helped them through a breakup, that I can help them through their other problems. This doesn't mean I have all the answers, but here's the big thing. Life has this uh continuous stream of issues. All right. So stay with me on this. You're gonna always have issues, myself included. You're gonna always have problems, and problems come up like once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, whatever. If you have a big family, it might be more. You have more responsibility, it might be more. I don't know. But one of the problems or 2 of the problems will grab you, and you'll be pissed all day. And it'll just be like this, choo, choo. It'll be like a mouse wheel on your head over and over again. You're thinking, "Why did I do that? Why is this happening?" Da, 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 da. Now, if you can get out in front of that with a coach once a week or whenever it happens, you're like, "This guy at work, I'm having a lot of problems with him. We're fighting. It's my boss. I'm worried if I confront them. All right, let's talk about it. Let's unpack it." Now, what does that do? When I'm with that client, they can say whatever they want to me. They could talk shit about this guy that's their boss. They can say whatever they want and feel safe. Number 2, we can unpack the problem with someone that's on their side. I'm on your side, but I'm going to be honest with you because you're asking me to do that. And when you go to your friend, your family, or your wife, what have you, and they're not a coach or not a therapist, sometimes they're not going to be on your side. They'll just be like, "Oh, you're overreacting," or it's just not their jam. It's not what they do. I'll sit for an hour, hour and a half, and we'll comb through that problem. We'll talk about it. And sometimes you just need reassurance that you're taking the right path so you can stop the mouse wheel. Now, what you're asking, like, someone does that once or twice a week, think about it. What's the alternative? Let's say you let that go. You're like, "Oh, okay, the John, who's your boss at work, has been really irritating you recently. He's been a smart ass. and you're scared because you don't want to lose your job, but you need to have a chat with him. He said a few things. You haven't talked to anyone about this, and one friend told you, "Fuck that guy, you can get another job." Da, 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 da. So you have one negative thing in your head, so you let it go. You don't make any action towards it. You don't really unpack it. So over a month, over 2 months, you start to continue to build resentment towards that person you work with because you really haven't let go of that incident that happened 2 months ago. You never cleaned it up. Now, imagine this. Let's say you go through 2, 3, 4 years of your life without talking to anyone. How many of those resentful issues have you not cleaned up? You're not going to cure a bad moment, a bad breakup. You're not going to cure um, a bad relationship with your mother because that was built over a lot of different things. What you can do is clean it up, meaning that you can go back to it after ground zero, after the event happens with myself, and we can clean it up. We can look at it in a different way. It's like you store these feelings in your body, right? They say the body keeps score sometimes. It's a book. You store these feelings, you store these resentments. And over a year, now your boss at work, I hate that guy. I can't stand him. You're bubbling. You never cleaned up whatever issue you had with them. You don't have to like the person, but you need to clean up some of the things that happened to you. If you can do it once a week, once every 2 weeks, you're going to move a lot more freer, a lot more cleaner. It's just how it is. Now people look at it, I don't want to spend the money on that. It's the same thing with the gym, right? Oh, I don't want to spend the money on that. If you don't spend the money or want to spend the money, it's up to you. The reality is there's a big payoff. There's a big payoff. And people that are highly successful use that payoff all the time. Pain equals power. Soak it in, grow to love it. Rocket fuel, never look back. My 2 cents. Thanks, Mirror Mirror. Have you noticed my growth? Absolutely, Miguel. Absolutely. Since working with you in therapist have. Be selective. And that's the biggest thing with the coach thing or the therapy thing or the doctor's thing. It always makes me cringe now because doctors and even some therapists, they're get a licensed get a doctor or a licensed such and such, right? And that's fine. And there's nothing wrong with that. The idea that just because they're licensed that they're going to be great, no, you still need to interview them or go to them with an open mind that they might not be right for you. That's my point. Just because someone's a doctor doesn't mean there's bad doctors, right? All right, folks, this has been good. It's been grand. I'll be back on deck tomorrow at 9. Appreciate you all. Miguel, good to see you, my friend. You are absolutely growing, and it's great that you feel like you're such a stronger person in your mid-20s. Sabina, Mirror Mirror, always a pleasure. Enjoy that Thailand weather, hospitality, and smiles. I do miss it, but I will be back soon, probably. And that's all, folks.